Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2 has come to an end. And to be honest, this season had easily the most confusing and all over the place storyline I have ever seen out of this game. So if you felt lost, yeah, I can't blame you. That's why I'm here now. So while yes, this season had the whole Showdown plot going on, there was also a ton of side stories happening that led up to the end season live event. So I've taken the time to put all of the pieces together into one simplified story, and just like this season, I've split this video into 3 acts so we can focus on all of the important pieces one at a time. So if this video helps you understand the story better, and you just enjoy it in general, strike that like button and sub to my channel, and if you'd like to support me one step further, consider using my creator code ThunderDM in the Fortnite shop. With all that being said, let's dive into this mess. So during the mini live event last season, the Dark Voyager used his Dark Harvester to zap the 3 0-point shards he had already gathered, which created reality portals to 3 additional shards, which pulled pieces of those realities to the Golden Coast. One of these locations was actually the home of the Ice King, which was where this season's story truly began. At the very end of last season, the Order picked up a strange yet familiar signal. The Foundation, who we hadn't seen since he mysteriously disappeared during Chapter 3 Season 3, and after all of these years, we finally found out what happened to him. He wasn't taken by the Chrome like many of the other 7 members, but he was actually imprisoned by the Ice King, who wanted his revenge after the 7 had trespassed on the Ice Moon and destroyed his castle in the Zero War comics. But unfortunately for the Ice King, freezing the Foundation isn't enough to hold him, as his suit was able to use its heat generation to melt the ice so he could break out and make his escape, reuniting him with both Jones and the Order, as well as introducing him to the new visitor and Jones's apprentice, Hope. This new team then turned Classified Canyon into the 7's new and improved Sanctuary, which has acted as their base of operations this season. But of course, things weren't all sunshine and rainbows now. The Ice King was furious that the Foundation had escaped. His collection of dangerous characters and weapons are his prized possession, and this hoarder does not like when his belongings slip away. See, the Ice King believes that only he is worthy of having all of this power, and anyone or anything that he personally deems as a threat to the Omniverse, he prefers to keep frozen within his collection, and that just so happens to include the Foundation. See, Ice King isn't actually a bad guy, he's more of an anti-hero, with insanely questionable methods. And speaking of questionable decisions, the Ice King then made an unlikely alliance this season with the Dark Voyager. Even though Ice King doesn't particularly like or trust Voyager, however, it would seem that Dark Voyager was able to offer the Ice King something of interest to him in exchange for keeping the Foundation and the rest of his team preoccupied for a while. And this was how the Showdown actually began, and why we were forced to join Team Ice King or Team Foundation at the beginning of the season. But of course, these two aren't the only rivals on the island right now, though something is definitely off about the others. So in what I'll call the B plot of this season, Jules, the daughter of Midas, and my wife, have made an unexpected return to the storyline this season, and she's now become a member of the Elites, a faction I mentioned in my previous full story video. But sometime last season, Dark Voyager actually traveled to the Elite's base and began investigating. Jules used this as her opportunity to stow away on the Dark Harvester to see what was really going on here, which is how she arrived on the Golden Coast, and quickly realized that the Dark Voyager not only posed a threat to the Elites, but the entire Omniverse. Though Jules would unfortunately have an unexpected obstacle in her way this season when a ghost from her past returned, an old friend named Dasha. So at first glance, Dasha seems like another generic e-girl skin in Fortnite, but she was actually a former member of the now fallen Imagined Order, an organization we now know Jules was also a part of in the past. According to Dasha, in their younger years, the two of them were good friends and got into loads of mischief. However, Jules eventually grew up and wanted to become a hero and protect the island, which led her to leaving the Imagined Order and Dasha behind. And being stuck in the past, Dasha decided she wanted revenge on her former friend for leaving her behind. But Jules doesn't really want to deal with Dasha, and actually wishes she would just move on to find a happier life for herself. She's got more important things on her mind this season than dealing with someone who just looks like she plays Dead by Daylight. I betcha she's one of those Sable mains. So in the C plot, we have another rivalry this season, with newcomers Squibbly and mascot character Fishstick. Squibbly is mad at Fishstick for selling out their reality 0-point shard to the Dark Voyager, so naturally, the octopus is trying to eat the fish, and vice versa. Can you tell this was the joke plot of this season? But finally, we saw in promo material that the Order and Lady Windfrost were also rivals, but in the actual story, they never meet. Hell, Windfrost isn't really even a character within the story, which was my first sign that something more was going on here. None of these characters seemed all too interested in the showdown between the Ice King and the Foundation, besides the Ice King and the Foundation themselves. Certain characters were actually even trying to stop the showdown from happening, like Hope and Jones, so that they could refocus their efforts on finding out where the Dark Voyager disappeared to earlier in the season. Wait, speaking of, where has Dark Voyager been this whole time? So while the battles were going on back on the Golden Coast, the Dark Voyager continued to investigate the rest of the Omniverse in search of the final 0-point shard. This is why throughout the season, you could see him visit different realities such as Reality Unknown, aka Fortnite OG, and even Fortnite Save the World, which was how those characters wound up on the Golden Coast, because a couple of the home base morons thought it would be a good idea to chase after Dark Voyager, which got them stranded in another reality. No wonder they never actually saved the world. These guys are incompetent. Anyways, Dark Voyager's story this season would reach its climax when he returned to Reality 337, which is the actual reality designation for the Elite's base. The same one he was investigating back when Jules stowed away on his ship. Well, now the Voyager has returned to this reality because it just so happens the Elites were the ones who had the final 0-point shard, and they weren't giving it up without a fight. Though, it would seem the defenses Jules designed were nothing against the Dark Voyager, as they couldn't even break through the Dark Harvester's shield, and he got away with the shard effortlessly. When Jules found out about this, she was furious. The Dark Voyager had completely humiliated her, so now she's created some new cube weapons that she plans to use against him, and she wasn't gonna let this guy best her again. Plus, Zadie has now joined her on the Golden Coast, and on top of that, the Elites have entered a temporary alliance with the Seven in order to defeat their shared enemy. But it would seem this wouldn't be enough, as despite Team Foundation having the help of the Elites, Home Base, and even Overwatch, they were just no match for one angry snowman, his two side chicks, and an octopus. Seriously, it's crazy how much pressure Ice King has consistently kept against Foundation to keep him distracted. Which, speaking of, if it wasn't obvious by now, this whole showdown we've experienced this season wasn't actually about Ice King versus Foundation. It was all a distraction created by the Dark Voyager to not only keep the characters, but us the loopers busy while he enacts his true plan of reassembling the 0-point. But fortunately for us, Hope, Jones, the Order, and the Visitor didn't get wrapped up in this fake war, and they have been actively doing research into the Dark Voyager and finding out the whereabouts of the other 7 members while we've been busy.
Facing down Dark Voyager was bad enough. Now we've got to deal with the Ice King too?
Yeah, what does that guy even want?
Have you seen all the random junk he keeps in that castle of his? He's a collector. He wants his favorite toy back.
Ooh, do not let Foundation hear you call him that. So, Hope, what's up with those elites?
We seem to be on the same side. Not sure if much else matters.
Uh-huh. And we're sure we want to throw in with them? Because they're very, violence-forward.
Hey, don't get a bellyache on me now, Jones. Jules is working on some tech that might help us turn the tide.
Hey, Hope. You're, staring creepily into space. More than usual.
Sorry, my visions are still just blocked. I can almost see what I'm looking for, but it's just out of reach.
Oh, good. You know, just if you do get a vision, let's, try for something good. Yeah, the legend victorious. Dark Voyager exploding, you know, the drill.
Sure. Yeah, all that and a pony. Hey, Jones, it looks like the Dark Voyager's still trying to fuse those 0-point shards.
Yeah, well, good luck. Have any idea how much power something like that would take?
Hopefully more than he has.
Hopefully more than anyone has. Because if he gets full control of the 0 point, it's over.
It's not looking good, Jones. Please tell me you've got something up your sleeve here.
I do know someone, but she's, dangerous.
Good dangerous or bad dangerous?
Both dangerous, but I do trust her, I think. Foundation won't, though.
If you trust her, I trust her. Bring her in.
Gotta say, it's really nice hearing these two have audio logs together again, but who is this mysterious character Jones is referring to? We'll get to that later. For now, I think it's important to find out what the Order, the Visitor, and Amy have discovered about the other 7 members.
The Imagined. Status: deceased. It is important for all of us, including the 7, to remember what we're fighting for. The island, reality itself, and most importantly, you, the loopers.
I'll remember it, sister. For both of us.
The Origin. Status: lost to the Chrome.
I won't watch another world end. We're going to win this. See you on the other side, Looper.
Another fallen general.
I don't want to do this without him. But we will. We have to.
The Scientist. Status: lost to the Chrome.
Everything's my fault, so whatever happens to me, I deserve it. I'm sorry it ended like this. I've always...
I'm sorry I didn't find you in time. I'm going to make you proud. The Visitor. Reality 0. Status: lost to the Chrome.
Do you think he suffered?
In our line of work, the best we can hope for is fast and painless.
And yet, dedication such as ours is always paid in agony.
The Paradigm. Status: sacrificed to Zero Fusion. I've done everything I can. This is your fight now.
I'm sorry we ever doubted you. Your sacrifice meant everything.
Sometimes fate is inevitable.
So sadly, it would seem that the other 7 members have fallen. And I must admit, I had one accidental misconception in my previous full story video. I had thought that this Amy was from Visitor 7 due to her personality being different, but it turns out that she's actually just been depressed after failing to save the Scientist. But that aside, it would seem that our heroes won't be able to get any more help going into the final battle this season. Or that's what we thought.
We're all we have left. It's not gonna be enough.
Perhaps not.
The Singularity.
What? Amy, she was I.O. She'd never work with us.
The Singularity. Status: incoming.
And this is where our story reaches its grand finale. Despite many of the characters' best efforts to stay out of this conflict, it would seem that the Dark Voyager has actually joined the Ice King for this final fight, meaning that even the characters trying to stay away from the Ice King and the Foundation's showdown are now stuck in the middle of it. But it would seem that the Visitor has something up his sleeve just for this moment. And now, the final battle has begun. Team Foundation had a plan to sneak into Dark Dominion to spring their trap. They planned to use the Foundation as bait to lure the Ice King into one final battle. However, the Dark Voyager and the Ice King were completely aware of their plans, as there was a traitor among Team Foundation. So Team Ice King confidently flew into Dark Dominion. Then after some banter between the Foundation and the Ice King, Foundation's device malfunctioned and Team Ice King took advantage of the situation. But then Foundation just threw the device at the shard, which knocked it loose. And then what followed was the greatest battle in the history of this game. Both the Ice King and the Foundation went all out. At first, the Foundation seemed to be on top using the 0 point shard as his weapon, but then Ice King showed what the full power of the Infinity Blade truly is. And then these two proceeded to put the absolute beating on one another, but then Foundation finally got the upper hand, or so he thought. The Ice King then froze the Foundation and possibly even killed him, meaning that the Ice King won the showdown. But this victory would be short-lived, as the Dark Voyager backstabbed the Ice King and turned him into cubes, allowing Voyager to turn into his final form. And then Voyager enacted his true plan and reassembled the 0 point. But when all hope seemed lost, a Rift Butterfly appeared, giving the Looper one final gift from the Ice King, his Infinity Blade, which was used to slice the Dark Harvester in half. But the damage had already been done, and the Golden Coast had been changed forever. In the final cutscene, we catch up with Jones and the Visitor, seeing the reformed 0 point. Jones realized their enemy was always one step ahead. Then Dark Voyager showed up, and the Visitor shot Jones, as not only was he the traitor, but the Visitor had been Geno all along, who then kicked Jones off a cliff, leaving his fate unknown. So it would seem that the true winner of this showdown was Geno.